Alright, what's going on everybody? So the second episode of The Executioner and Her Way of Life dropped yesterday, and with it we got the introduction of the second main character, Akari Tokito, the first appearance of Princess Ashana, as well as a more detailed explanation on how Magecraft works. This episode covers chapters 3 and 4 of the manga with a couple of small changes and additions. Episode 2 picks up where the premiere left off, with Minnow infiltrating the palace to find and kill Akari. After their unexpected meeting on the balcony, Akari is led to believe that Minnow was there to rescue her. Minnow strikes when Akari's guard is down, killing her, but only temporarily as her pure concept activates soon after. It's revealed that Akari's pure concept isn't healing, but time. Through time regression, Akari's wound is instantly healed, shocking Minnow. Realizing that she cannot kill her target, Minnow reaches out to Archbishop Orwell for help. Orwell tells her about a ceremonial hall that can be used to kill Akari in the ancient city of Garm. So Akari and Minnow take a train heading to Garm, with Akari believing that she will be taken back home. I thought this was a solid episode despite it lacking any action scenes. It was paced well, with the show breaking down what Ether and Magecraft is without hurting the momentum. Compared to what I read in the manga, the anime is doing a better job with the world building and expanding on the lore. I'm not sure about later chapters of the manga, but Volume 1 didn't go into detail about what Ether was or how Magecraft worked. So I had the same assumption that Akari had about Magecraft when Minnow is explaining it to her. It's not exactly magic, but more so technology used for manipulating Ether. It's little distinctions like that which make this world unique and interesting. Moreover, how restrictive and uncommon Magecraft usage is another factor that makes its implementation differ from the normal magic that we see in other series. Minnow states that in order to use it you need special tools, like her scripture for example. She also says that it requires training. Therefore, compared to the pure concepts that the Lost Ones use, Magecraft is much more restrictive. Aside from the expansion of the lore, the little character interactions were enjoyable, such as Minnow chopping Akari or Momo expressing her disgust over Akari. I chuckled a bit at the scene where Momo was telling Minnow how she felt about Akari eating the food she prepared. Beyond that, I thought the studio properly conveyed just how concerned Momo is for Minnow when she is insistent about getting on the train to Garm. It's not just about her possibly losing her friend to Akari, nor is she worried about Minnow accidentally slipping up. Momo seems to be concerned about her potentially becoming too emotionally attached to Akari after spending some time together. Momo's most worried about Minnow's heart rather than her ability to carry out her duty. The anime adds some internal dialogue for Minnow that gives insight into why she refuses to let Momo accompany Akari instead of herself. She simply doesn't want her to have to deal with the burden of killing an innocent person. That scene shows just how much these two care about each other. Prior to that scene, there was an additional scene where Akari was eating breakfast. In the manga, Minnow simply explained while they were walking around the town why they needed to go to Garm. This new scene adds more interaction between the two characters and a tidbit about how the bodies of lost ones can be used to perform Magecraft. There was also extra dialogue for Orwell when she's talking to Minnow in a previous scene. One notable inclusion, besides her briefly mentioning the individual 4 major human errors name dropped last episode, was her talking about the recent disappearance of women. Orwell doesn't talk about this in the manga. Instead, when she brings up not being able to save those within her reach, she appears to be referencing what happened to Minnow when she was younger. This line about missing women might better clarify something about an upcoming conflict that wasn't elaborated on in the first volume. The last several minutes mostly take place at the train station, in which there were a couple of notable changes from the manga. There was a scene where a little girl fell and Akari is about to heal her before Minnow conjured bubbles as a distraction. In the manga, this takes place while they're aboard the train and Akari heals the girl prior to Minnow showing the girl the bubbles as a reward for not crying about her injury. Another difference from the manga is that instead of showing some sketchy guys hanging outside the station, 2 knights are looking for Princess Ashana. I don't think these changes were bad or anything. In fact, one could argue that the scene with the little girl is handled a little better here. Overall, this week's episode, while not as strong as the premiere, was still good. The animation was mostly great, but there's a part at the beginning of the train station scene where there is a brief shot of a crowd walking by that is a mix of CG and 2D animation that I noticed quickly. It's only visible for a few seconds and it's possible some people might not notice. Other than that, I like the voice acting, especially for Akari. Next week, the focus will be on Minnow and Akari's time on the train. I won't spoil anything, but just to know that there should be a decent amount of action in the upcoming episode. Anyway, let me know what you guys thought about this week's episode in the comment section below, and as always, thank you guys for watching. I'm out of here. Peace.